You think throwing money around makes you one of us? My mother said as my family turned my baby shower, which I paid for, into my sister's engagement party and locked me out. So I made one phone call, and 10 minutes later, they showed up at my house screaming, but I was just getting started. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel, and I'm 7 months pregnant. This is supposed to be one of the happiest times of my life, but instead, I'm sitting here, typing this with shaking hands, because I just got locked out of my own baby shower, the one I paid for. My family says I deserved it. But maybe I should start from the beginning. I was glowing that day. Not just because of the pregnancy, but because for once, I thought my family had finally come through for me. The baby shower was supposed to be perfect. My moment. My celebration. And, of course, I had paid for everything myself. The venue, the catering, the decorations, even the party favors. My mother had made a comment when I first mentioned it. A real mother provides for her child. You don't expect us to pay for it, do you? I should have known right then. But I ignored it. I ignored every passive-aggressive remark, every suspicious glance, every time my sister whispered to my mom, and they both smirked like they knew something I didn't. Because I wanted this day. So when I stepped out of the car in front of the venue, my hands resting on my growing belly, I felt nothing but excitement. That excitement lasted exactly 3 seconds. Because when I reached the front door and pulled the handle, it didn't budge. Locked. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Laughter floated from inside, my sister's cackling laugh, the sound of glasses clinking, the faint thump of music. My baby shower. My money. My party. And I was outside. I was just about to call someone when the door finally creaked open. My mother stood there, dressed in an elegant navy blue dress, her hair styled perfectly, her lips curled into a small, smug smile. She didn't move to let me in. Instead, she leaned against the doorframe like she was waiting for me to catch on. "Oh," she said, tilting her head. "What are you doing here?" I let out a breathy laugh, sure this was some kind of twisted joke. It's my baby shower?" She sighed like I was the biggest disappointment in the world. "Sweetheart, this is a celebration for real mothers." The words were so absurd, I actually blinked. "Excuse me?" My voice came out sharp, my hand tightening around my belly. "You haven't done anything for this family," she continued, her tone sickly sweet. "You think throwing money around makes you one of us?" Behind her, I saw them. My aunts, my cousins, my sister, my entire family, laughing, sipping champagne, plates full of food I paid for. They weren't expecting me. They hadn't planned for me. Because I was never supposed to be here. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to swallow it down. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. "I paid for this," I said slowly, voice dangerously low. "And we appreciate it," my sister chimed in from behind my mom, smirking. "Really, we do. The decorations turned out amazing. Too bad you won't be enjoying them." Aunt Linda chuckled from the side. "Well, that's what happens when you prioritize yourself over family, dear." I could taste the bile rising in my throat. "Are you serious?" My voice wavered. "I have done nothing but give to this family. I have supported you, helped you, paid for things none of you ever even said thank you for. And now you're—" "Lower your voice," my mother hissed, eyes flicking toward the hallway. "You're causing a scene." A scene. At my own baby shower. And suddenly, I was 7 years old again, standing in our dimly lit kitchen, holding up a crumpled drawing of a stick figure family. "Look, Mommy. I made this for you." She barely glanced up from the sink, scrubbing a plate so hard I thought it might shatter. "Rachel, not now. Go help your sister with her homework. She actually needs it." I had swallowed down the lump in my throat and done as I was told. Because that's what I always did. Even now, decades later, nothing had changed. I took a slow, steady breath, blinked away the sting in my eyes, and smiled. "All right," I said, tilting my head. I just stood there, staring at my mother's cold, unreadable expression. "A celebration for real mothers," she had said. I had paid for the venue, the food, the cake. I had planned every detail. And yet, somehow, I wasn't even allowed through the door. The laughter from inside grew louder, floating through the gap in the doorway like poison. My fingers curled into fists. "Mom," I said, my voice tight. "What's going on?" She sighed like I was exhausting her. "Rachel, this isn't a big deal. You're overreacting." I glanced past her shoulder and saw my sister, Ava, in an expensive white dress, holding up her hand as a group of women admired the diamond on her finger. My stomach twisted. "What is this?" My voice came out quieter than I wanted it to. Ava turned then, locking eyes with me. And the smile that spread across her lips? Pure malice. "Oh, didn't Mom tell you?" she said sweetly. "It's my engagement party." My world tilted. I looked at my mother again, praying for some kind of denial. Some kind of explanation that would make this less than what it was. She didn't even blink. "Rachel," she said patiently, like I was a child. "You have to understand. A baby is, well, it's not exactly the same as an engagement. We needed to prioritize something the whole family could celebrate." "You replaced my baby shower," I whispered, barely able to form the words. "It just made sense," she said with a light shrug. "Besides, you don't even have a husband." There it was. The real reason. Ava let out a fake sympathetic sigh. "I mean, come on, Rachel. A baby out of wedlock? It's not exactly something to throw a party for." I felt the sting behind my eyes, but I refused to let them see it. I had spent months trying to convince myself that things were different now. That my mother and sister, no matter how self-absorbed, would at least pretend to care about me and my baby. I was wrong. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Okay." Ava raised an eyebrow. "Okay." I smiled. "Yeah. Okay." Then I pulled out my phone. My mother stiffened. "Rachel, what are you doing?" I held up a finger, dialing the number I had memorized weeks ago, just in case. The line rang twice before a smooth, professional voice answered. "Ms. Wright." "I assume this is the call." "It is," I said, keeping my eyes locked on my mother's. "Cancel everything." A sharp inhale. "Understood. I'll handle it now." Click. Ava frowned. "Wait, what do you mean cancel everything?" I slid my phone back into my purse. "Oh, you'll see." And then, without another word, I turned and walked away. I didn't need to see their reactions. Not yet. Because in exactly 10 minutes, when the catering company pulled out, the waitstaff walked away, and their guests stood in an empty, undecorated venue, that's when they'd truly understand. So, after getting locked out of my own baby shower, which had secretly been turned into my sister's engagement party, I made a call. I canceled everything. And then I walked away. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Because less than 10 minutes later, my entire family showed up at my house, screaming. I had just stepped into my apartment when the first call came. "Mom, incoming call." I let it ring. Then came another. "Ava, incoming call." Declined. Then a text from Aunt Linda. "Rachel, what did you do?" "The venue is empty. The guests are standing around looking confused. Call me now." I smirked. Good. I barely had time to toss my purse onto the counter before I heard it, tires screeching outside. A moment later, there was a furious pounding on my door. Bang, bang, bang. "Rachel, open this door right now." I took my time. I wanted them to wait. By the time I finally swung the door open, my mother, Ava, and 2 of my aunts were standing on my doorstep, red-faced and shaking with rage. "What did you do?" my mother hissed through gritted teeth. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Oh, you mean the engagement party? The one you replaced my baby shower with? The one you didn't even bother to tell me about?" Ava shoved past me into my apartment. "You ruined everything," she shrieked, turning so fast her heels nearly slipped against my floor. "Do you have any idea how humiliated I am right now?" All my friends were there, Rachel. The photographer was already set up. The engagement cake was in the back waiting to be brought out. And then, poof. Nothing. No food, no drinks, no decorations. Just a bunch of guests standing there looking stupid. I stared at her, unimpressed. "You mean exactly how I looked when I showed up to my baby shower and found out I wasn't welcome?" Ava's lips curled in fury. That was different, she snapped. I raised an eyebrow. How? Because a baby shower is small, Rachel. An engagement is a real celebration. Mom did what was best for the family. You seriously can't see the difference. My fingers curled into fists. The difference, I said, voice low, is that I never would have done that to you. Ava rolled her eyes. Oh, don't act like some tragic victim. You got pregnant from a guy who didn't even stick around. And you expected Mom to throw a huge party for that? It's embarrassing. Silence. I felt my stomach twist. Ava must have seen the flicker of pain in my expression because she smiled. Oh, please. You think you deserve the same attention as me, she taunted. I'm marrying into an amazing family. I have a future, a husband, a real life. What do you have, Rachel? Huh? I swallowed hard. Not because she was right, but because she was exactly like Mom. And that's when I knew they would never change. Get out, I said. Ava scoffed. Excuse me? I met her gaze, steady and sharp. I said, get out. She opened her mouth to argue, but then my phone rang. Loud, sharp, cutting through the tension like a knife. The familiar professional ringtone I had set weeks ago. My mother stiffened. Ava frowned. Who is that? I smiled. Perfect timing. I pulled out my phone, turned the screen toward them, and watched their faces pale at the name flashing across it. Attorney John Reynolds, incoming call. I answered. Ms. Wright, my lawyer's voice came through, crisp and calm. Just confirming that all transactions have been officially voided. Your financial separation from your family is now in effect. A slow, satisfied smirk spread across my lips. Thank you, John, I said sweetly. I appreciate you handling it so quickly. Click. I turned back to them. Silence. My mother's expression had gone completely blank. Ava looked like she might actually pass out. What does that mean? She finally croaked. It means, I said cheerfully, I'm officially cutting all financial ties. No more helping out. No more covering for your mistakes. No more sending money when Mom calls crying about unexpected expenses. I turned to my mother. Oh, and by the way, I called the bank. That credit card you secretly took out in my name? Yeah, they know it was fraud now. Ava gasped. Mom? You said she wouldn't notice. My mother flinched but said nothing. I laughed. Oh, and before I forget, Ava? She looked at me, still pale. You might want to check your wedding budget. Because that $5,000 deposit you used MY name for? It's been flagged. Have fun explaining that to your fancy fiancé. Ava screeched. You're insane. She lunged forward, but I stepped back and slammed the door in her face. For the first time in my life, I shut them out. And it felt incredible. It's been 2 weeks since I slammed the door in my family's face. Since I exposed the fraud, cut off their money supply, and left them standing outside my apartment in shock. I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. Because now, my mother is trying to ruin my life. For the first time in years, I felt free. I woke up the next morning without the usual knot in my stomach. No guilt, no stress, no fear of an early morning call demanding money. Just silence. It was strange at first. I had spent years living on edge, waiting for the next emergency, the next guilt trip, the next financial crisis that would only be temporary, but somehow always ended up being my responsibility. Now? Nothing. No texts. No calls. My mother had finally given up. Or so I thought. 1 week later. It started small. A text from an unknown number. You're being ridiculous, Rachel. Family is family. Call your mother. Blocked. Then a voicemail from Aunt Linda. Rachel, honey, I don't know what's going on between you and your mom, but she's devastated. She's been crying for days. She told me you just cut her off out of nowhere? Sweetie, that's not like you. At least talk to her. Delete. Then, the real bomb dropped. I walked into work that morning, coffee in hand, ready for a normal day. But the moment I stepped inside, the whispers started. People were looking at me, staring. I felt the shift immediately. Something was wrong. I made my way to my desk, ignoring the murmurs, and opened my email. Subject: urgent. Rachel Wright. My stomach dropped. I clicked it open. Rachel, please come to my office as soon as you see this. There's a serious concern we need to discuss. HR Manager, Lisa Porter. I barely had time to process the email before my phone buzzed. Incoming call, Lisa Porter, HR. I swallowed hard and picked up. Rachel, Lisa's voice was careful, measured. Can you come upstairs? No. I didn't ask questions. I just went. Lisa's office was bright, modern, lined with bookshelves and certificates that made it clear she took her job seriously. She gestured for me to sit, her expression unreadable. Rachel, she started slowly. We received a complaint about you. I blinked. A complaint. She hesitated before sliding a printed email across the desk. I picked it up, and my blood ran cold. To whom it may concern. I am writing to formally report an employee at your company, Rachel Wright, for serious ethical violations and concerning personal behavior. Rachel has a history of financial fraud, deception, and emotional manipulation. She has been involved in multiple incidents where she exploited family members for financial gain, taking money under false pretenses and abandoning responsibilities she had committed to. I believe it is in the best interest of your company to investigate this matter further before entrusting her with any financial or sensitive information. ***. Sincerely, Margaret Wright. I dropped the paper like it burned me. My mother, I whispered, my throat dry. My own mother sent this? Lisa watched me carefully. Rachel, I need to ask, is there any truth to this? I laughed. Actually laughed. Lisa, my mother is a manipulative, narcissistic liar. She's mad because I cut her off financially, so now she's trying to ruin my job. I exhaled sharply. And you know what? I can prove it. Lisa nodded. Okay, show me. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my emails. There. The fraud report I had filed against my mother and Ava. The proof that they had stolen from me. I placed my phone on the desk and let her read. Lisa's expression darkened as she scrolled. Rachel, this is serious. I know. She exhaled sharply and set my phone down. All right. Here's what we're going to do. This complaint? It's going straight to legal. We're flagging it as false and adding a formal note in your file that this was an act of harassment. She looked at me closely. Do you feel safe, Rachel? Do you need to file a restraining order? I blinked. I hadn't even thought that far. Did I need to? I chewed my lip, considering. Not yet. But if she keeps this up, I might. Lisa nodded. Keep me updated. And Rachel? Yeah? You're not in trouble. Don't let her make you feel like you are. I felt something tighten in my throat. I nodded. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't in a long, long time. Protected. 2 days later. I had barely processed the work incident when the next attack came. This time, it wasn't my job. It was my apartment. I stepped into my apartment and immediately sensed something was wrong. The welcome mat was gone. The doorbell camera? Ripped off. And then, the mess. With shaking hands, I unlocked the door and pushed it open. Inside, trash was scattered across the floor, torn-up papers mixed in with overturned furniture. In the middle of it all, a note. Scrawled in thick black marker. You made your choice. Now live with it. I felt my pulse pound in my ears. I didn't need to guess who sent it. I already knew. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 2 weeks ago, I cut off my toxic family. Since then, my mother tried to ruin my job and failed. But today, I came home to find a note slipped under my door, 4 words in her handwriting. You made your choice. I called the police. And now? Now it's time to end this for good. The police report. The officer stood in my apartment doorway, flipping through his notepad, his nose wrinkled from the stench of rotting meat. You're sure no one else has a key to your apartment? He asked. Only the landlord. But my mother knows how to pick locks, I said flatly. He gave me a sharp look. And you believe she did this? I stepped aside and gestured toward the note, still lying in the middle of the mess. It's her handwriting. The officer sighed and jotted something down. All right. We'll file a report. But unless you have a camera or a witness, there's not much we can do besides advise you to get a restraining order. A restraining order. A month ago, I would have hesitated. Now? I nodded. Let's do it. The courtroom. A week later, I sat in a courtroom across from my mother. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, no. Her makeup was perfect, her dress was pristine, but something about the way she sat there, stiff, glaring at me like I had betrayed her, made her seem pathetic. My lawyer spoke first, presenting the fraud claims, the harassment emails, and now the breaking and entering incident. Then came my mother's turn. She scoffed dramatically, shaking her head. Your Honor, this is absurd. My daughter has always been sensitive, emotional. She's exaggerating all of this to punish me for a simple misunderstanding. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face blank. The judge raised an eyebrow. So, you deny writing the letter? My mother paused. Too long. Well, I may have written something, but it was just a note. A harmless note. The judge turned to me. Ms. Wright, do you have a copy of the note? I smiled and held up two things. The actual note. A handwriting analysis report. The judge skimmed the documents and exhaled sharply. Mrs. Wright, this evidence is quite damning. My mother's face twisted. But I'm her mother. You can't really think I would harm my own daughter. The judge glanced at the documents before nodding. Given the circumstances, I'm granting the order of protection. Silence. Then, you can't do this, my mother protested, rising from her seat. Rachel, honey, this is a misunderstanding. The bailiff stepped forward. Ma'am, please step outside. She turned to me, desperate. Rachel, I'm your mother. I exhaled, meeting her gaze. Not anymore. And then? I watched her get escorted out of my life. For good. 6 months later. The peace was almost unsettling at first. No more calls. No more guilt-tripping texts. No more financial demands disguised as family love. For the first time in my life, I was free. I got promoted at work, moved to a better apartment. And most importantly, I started preparing for the person who truly mattered, my baby. One evening, as I was setting up the crib, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. Rachel. My stomach clenched. It wasn't my mother. It was Ava. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, she said quickly. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I said nothing. Mom's a wreck, she continued. She still talks about you every day. But me? I get it now. She used me too. She always made me feel like I had to be the favorite. Had to be better than you. But the second I needed something from her, she turned on me too. I leaned against the wall, exhaling. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. Ava let out a bitter laugh. Because you were right about everything. And because... She hesitated. I think I need to get away from her too. I closed my eyes. For years, I had wanted my sister to see the truth. To stop treating me like competition. And now, here she was. Too late? Maybe. But for the first time in our lives, we were on the same side. Ava, I said softly. If you're serious about getting away from her, you know where to find me. A pause. Then. Thank you. Click. I set my phone down and turned back to the crib, running a hand over the soft blankets. My mother was gone. My past was behind me. And in just a few months, I'd be holding the one person who would always come first in my life. I smiled. This was the real beginning.